It began with laughter that echoed across the dusty country road every bright morning. The laughter wasn't joyful. It was cruel, sharp, and meant to wound. A young black boy walked alone beneath the warm afternoon sun, dragging an old wooden cart overflowing with fallen tree branches that everyone else considered worthless. Neighbors shook their heads, children pointed and laughed, and even grown men smiled with pity as they watched him gather what storms had scattered across fields and roadsides. They believed they were watching another child wasting his life chasing trash. None of them imagined that only a few years later they would stand speechless beneath endless rows of thriving fruit trees, realizing that every broken branch they mocked had quietly become the foundation of the most beautiful orchard their county had ever seen. If you believe kindness can overcome cruelty, if you believe hope deserves another chance, and if you believe small beginnings can lead to extraordinary endings, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family and our community. The boy's name was Colton Mercer, and at 14 years old he carried responsibilities that many adults would have struggled to bear. His father had passed away after a long illness, leaving behind a weathered farmhouse, a small piece of exhausted land, and countless unpaid bills. His mother, Eleanor, worked tirelessly sewing clothes for neighboring towns, often skipping meals so Colton could eat. Every sunrise found them working together beneath clear blue skies, determined to survive another day without complaining. Their farm barely produced enough vegetables to keep them alive, and each season seemed harder than the last. The soil had become dry, the fruit trees planted decades earlier had stopped producing, and everyone believed the Mercer property would soon be abandoned like so many struggling farms nearby. Colton refused to believe the land was finished. His father had once told him that nature wasted nothing and that every broken thing still carried the possibility of new life if someone cared enough to understand it. Those words settled deep inside his heart and never left him. Whenever strong winds swept across the valley, snapping branches from healthy trees, Colton hurried outside with his battered cart. While everyone else burned the fallen wood or left it to rot, he carefully collected every branch that looked healthy enough to save. People couldn't understand why. They assumed he wanted firewood, but he stacked the branches carefully beneath a simple wooden shelter instead of burning them. Day after day, week after week, season after season, his collection grew larger. Thick branches, thin branches, apple limbs, pear limbs, cherry limbs, plum limbs, he labeled every bundle using scraps of cardboard. The more organized his collection became, the louder the laughter around town grew. Some adults told their children not to become like Colton because they believed he was wasting precious time chasing impossible dreams. Others quietly pitied Eleanor, convinced grief had caused her son to lose touch with reality. Still, neither mother nor son answered the criticism with anger. Eleanor simply smiled and reminded Colton that people often mocked what they didn't understand. Her gentle encouragement became the strength that carried him through countless humiliating afternoons. One bright spring day an elderly horticulturist named Everett Sinclair stopped beside the Mercer farm after noticing the enormous stacks of sorted branches. Everett had spent decades caring for orchards before retiring, and unlike everyone else, he immediately recognized what Colton had collected. He asked permission to look more closely and found hundreds of healthy grafting branches preserved with surprising care. Instead of laughing, Everett smiled with genuine admiration. Although Colton spoke very little, Everett sensed remarkable curiosity behind the shy boy's quiet eyes. He explained that many commercial orchards discarded valuable branches every year after pruning because they only needed the healthiest fruit. Yet those same branches contained the genetics necessary to create entirely new trees through grafting. Everett spent many sunny afternoons teaching Colton every technique he knew. He demonstrated how to make clean cuts, match living tissue precisely, wrap grafts carefully, and patiently wait for new growth. Each lesson transformed discarded branches into possibilities. Colton practiced tirelessly beneath bright blue skies until his hands developed incredible precision. Every mistake became another lesson rather than another reason to quit. Everett never praised talent alone. Instead, he praised patience, reminding Colton that trees rewarded consistency far more than speed. Together they began rescuing the old dying orchard behind the farmhouse. Most of the trunks were still alive even though they no longer produced quality fruit. Instead of cutting them down, Colton carefully grafted healthy branches onto aging trees. The first attempts failed more often than they succeeded, but each success filled him with hope stronger than disappointment. Months passed beneath endless daylight as tiny green shoots emerged from grafted limbs. One by one, lifeless trees awakened. Fresh leaves spread across branches that had appeared dead only weeks before. Eleanor watched with tears in her eyes as color slowly returned to land everyone else had abandoned. The neighbors remained skeptical. They dismissed the new growth as temporary luck and insisted the orchard would never produce meaningful harvests. Their words still hurt, but Colton had learned something more valuable than confidence. He had learned quiet perseverance. Everett encouraged him to think even bigger. Instead of planting only one variety of fruit, Colton experimented with multiple grafts on individual trees. Apples grew beside pears. Plums shared branches with apricots. Cherries flourished alongside peaches wherever compatible rootstock allowed. Visitors who occasionally wandered onto the property couldn't believe what they were seeing. Every tree became a living symbol of second chances. Years continued passing beneath golden sunshine. The once empty farm transformed into rows of healthy orchards stretching farther each season. Birds returned in remarkable numbers. Bees filled the air. Butterflies drifted through blooming branches. The exhausted soil slowly healed as fallen leaves enriched the earth naturally. What had once resembled forgotten farmland now radiated life. Then came the drought. Across the county, fruit harvests shrank dramatically beneath relentless heat. Farmers feared losing generations of work. Many orchards suffered irreversible damage. Yet Colton's trees remained surprisingly resilient. The deep-rooted older trunks he had preserved reached water hidden far below the surface, while careful mulching from shredded branches protected moisture around every tree. Families who had once mocked him now quietly visited the Mercer farm seeking advice. Colton welcomed every visitor without bitterness. He shared everything Everett had taught him. He explained how preserving mature root systems created stronger trees and how discarded branches could become priceless through careful grafting. He never mentioned the years of ridicule because he understood that helping people mattered far more than proving them wrong. The following harvest stunned the entire region. The Mercer orchard produced baskets overflowing with crisp apples, sweet pears, juicy peaches, vibrant cherries, rich plums, and countless other fruits. Buyers traveled from neighboring counties after hearing stories about the extraordinary orchard that had somehow flourished despite difficult conditions. Local markets sold out within hours whenever Mercer fruit arrived. Reporters visited under bright afternoon skies to learn how a struggling family farm had become one of the county's greatest agricultural successes. Many expected expensive machinery or revolutionary fertilizers. Instead, they found simple tools, careful craftsmanship, and thousands of trees built from branches everyone else had thrown away. When asked about his greatest achievement, Colton didn't mention profits or awards. He simply pointed toward the oldest tree in the orchard. Its thick trunk supported 6 different kinds of fruit growing together in perfect harmony. He explained that every branch represented something someone else believed had no value. Together they created something impossible for any single branch to accomplish alone. Everett watched proudly from beneath the shade of that remarkable tree. Age had slowed his steps, but seeing Colton's dream become reality filled him with profound peace. He reminded everyone listening that knowledge only changes lives when someone is humble enough to learn and brave enough to continue after being laughed at. As prosperity returned, Colton made a decision that surprised everyone once again. Rather than expanding his own wealth endlessly, he established free community workshops teaching young people how to restore neglected orchards using grafting techniques. Children who attended learned not only agriculture but patience, resilience, generosity, and hope. Some of the very people who had mocked him years earlier volunteered beside him. They apologized sincerely for judging what they couldn't understand. Colton accepted every apology with quiet grace because carrying resentment would have poisoned the beautiful future he had worked so hard to grow. Forgiveness, he realized, was much like grafting. It joined what had been broken and allowed new life to flourish where pain once lived. Eleanor often walked slowly through the orchard during sunny afternoons, running her hands gently across branches filled with fruit. She remembered the lonely days when neighbors whispered that her son had lost his mind gathering broken wood. Now those same neighbors brought their grandchildren to admire the orchard and hear its story. She understood that the greatest harvest wasn't measured by fruit alone but by transformed hearts. Before long, the Mercer orchard became more than a successful farm. It became a place where struggling families found encouragement, where students discovered practical wisdom, and where people remembered that greatness often begins with unnoticed acts of faithfulness. Visitors left carrying more than baskets of fruit. They carried renewed belief that small acts of persistence could reshape entire lives. One warm afternoon, Colton paused beside the first stack of preserved branches he had never thrown away. They were dry now, no longer useful for grafting, but he kept them as a reminder of where everything had started. Every success surrounding him had grown from moments when quitting would have been easier than continuing. Looking across endless rows of thriving trees shimmering beneath the daylight, he silently thanked his father for planting one simple truth inside his heart: nature wastes nothing, and neither does hope. Before this story comes to an end, we'd love to hear from you. What is one moment in your own life when someone underestimated you, but you kept going anyway? Leave a meaningful comment below because your story might become the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Thank you for being part of our family and our community, where every story reminds us that kindness is never wasted, forgiveness always carries strength, hope can bloom from the smallest beginnings, and sometimes the very things the world throws away become the roots of the greatest blessings anyone has ever seen.